Thank you guys for joining me today. Unafraid Show, Reister or Wrong. Your boy George Reister here. We got a great day of Unafraid Show today. Some of the most interesting things. You guys make sure you swipe up, share the feed, like the feed, continue the conversation. And thank you for joining me every day like you always do. Appreciate it. Most importantly, subscribe. Subscribe. Hit the follow button, hit the like button, all those things. What we got up for you guys today is this. First thing, the Black Panther movie is coming out. Know you guys are excited about it because you all bought tickets. Everybody bought tickets. It's a great thing, and we're going to talk about that. And the Raiders owner, Mark Davis, he violated the Rooney Rule. And the NFL cannot give him a slap on the wrist for that. The NBA and the NFL are spending a lot of time in London. The NBA has a game in London today. The Celtics versus the 76ers. And the NFL, instead of having 4 games in London next year is going to have 3 games in London. And why are they spending so much time in London? We're going to go over that as well. But first up, the most interesting thing of the day. So first of all, Mark Helfrich was hired as the new offensive coordinator for the Bears. Good move. The man can offensive coordinate. It's the head coaching thing that had him a little in a pickle. But my question to everybody is Aaron Fentress now going to move to Chicago? He's a beat writer for the Ducks, for the Oregonian, I think it is. Is he moving to Chicago? Because you know he loves Helfrich. The next thing up. University of Central Florida, who went undefeated this year with Scott Frost as their head coach. They're putting up a national championship banner and all that. They put up a billboard in Alabama. First of all, congratulating Alabama on winning the national championship. But they also trolled Alabama, challenged them to schedule a home-and-home football game with them. So they play at Central Florida, and then they come back and play in Tuscaloosa in Alabama. All I can do is laugh. All I can do is laugh and say, don't waste your time, Central Florida. You wasted your money. If you think that Alabama is going to schedule an away game, an away non-conference game with anybody, you got yourself fooled. They haven't played an away conference and a true road game. I'm not talking about these rinky-dink neutral site games that they call road games. No, they have not played a true road game, non-conference game, since 2011 against Penn State. You realize how weak and whack that is? No respect for that at all. But now we're going to get to the Raiders. So the Raiders owner, Mark Davis, he admitted he violated the NFL's Rooney Rule because he admitted in the press conference that he had a deal in place to hire Jon Gruden before Christmas. So that means Jack Del Rio was still the coach, which is not a problem because you can interview people while you have a head coach in place. But the problem is there's the Rooney Rule in the NFL that says that you have to interview minority candidates. And they turned around and said, okay, well, we interviewed tight end coach Bobby Johnson and we interviewed T. Martin. But they only did so after they already had a deal in place with Jon Gruden. Do you realize how bad that is? Do you realize how bad that is? I'm serious. Because the Rooney Rule was put in place in 2003 to force ownership to interview minority candidates, whether they're black, Hispanic, whatever they are. They have to interview minority candidates before they hire a coach. Then in 2009, they expanded it to GMs. First of all, do you think that's a good thing or do you think that's a bad thing that they're mandated to interview people of color, minority head coaches? For one, it's a great thing because first of all, you get a chance to identify additional talent. Then going back to the same old picking from the same old white coaches who have had 3-4 jobs already despite non-Super Bowls and non-success. It allows you to interview the Marvin Lewises of the world, the Lovie Smiths, the Mike Tomlins, like the Jim Caldwells. Like, these are the people that Ron Rivera, Anthony Lynn with the Chargers, Hugh Jackson with the Cleveland Browns. This is who gets interviewed because of that. And they wouldn't ordinarily have gotten interviews. So it doesn't force you to hire head coaches. It's not even affirmative action. It is a smart thing for for general managers and for ownership to do, to interview multiple people. Because when you are just picking from the same pool of candidates, you are going to get that. When you expand the box, you might find something that's a little bit outside of the box that it turns out to be great. That's the benefit of the Rooney Rule. And the Raiders violated that. I mean, Mark Davis and his haircut, they violated it. And then the question is like, how much should they be penalized, and how should the Raiders be penalized for violating the Rooney Rule? The Raiders have to get a stiff penalty for violating the Rooney Rule. No, I'm not a Raiders fan, but my wife is. They have to be penalized greatly for this, because it's the last time that this happened was when the Lions, when they hired Steve Mariucci over 10 years ago. The Lions got fined $200,000. You've had other teams kind of circumvent the rule, just go through it, just for show and for optics. But the Raiders clearly disregarded the rule and then flagrantly came out and admitted it. The owner, Mark Davis, admitted it in a press conference. You have to take a draft pick away from the Raiders. You have to. You have to. Either that or like $1 million fine. It's got to hurt. Like, it has to be enough to discourage people from doing that. Someone asked the question, so it's official that they violated the rule. The owner admitted it. I mean, the NFL hasn't formally handed down punishment yet. However, the owner, Mark Davis, got on television and said, we had a deal in place with Jon Gruden that they didn't interview Bobby Johnson or T. Martin until after Christmas. After the deal was already in place, you've already admitted what you did. I mean, like, the whole point of the Rooney Rule is not a quota. It's just to get more people interviewed, because the NFL is a good old boys club. It's a good old boys network. And if you didn't have the right pigmentation or the right or the right, gene history, then you weren't getting in. And the same is true with NFL owners so far. That's why it's going to be really interesting who buys the Carolina Panthers. Because if somebody of color buys, a minority buys the Carolina Panthers, they're down there in the Bible Belt. It's going to be interesting what happens in those ownership meetings. How interesting would the ownership meetings be if Steph Curry was a majority owner? If P. Diddy was a majority owner? Jay-Z or Beyonce were a majority owner? How insane would that be? Because that would totally change the landscape of the NFL. And the NFL right now seems to be reeling a little bit, and people are asking, is the NFL dying? No, the NFL's not dying. I mean, it's still the highest rated shows on television, but the ratings are down like 20% since 2015. And that is because the NFL is suffering from like too much excess. Like, the market is literally recorrecting itself because it expanded, got too big. Comment just came in. They should have that rule for every job in the United States. Well, especially for, they should definitely have that rule for, like, big major jobs like CEOs, CFOs, COOs, all of that. I mean, it would benefit the companies by seeing different people, different fresh faces, different ideas. It would definitely benefit them. But the question is, do those celebrities have enough money to buy it? I've talked about it, that NFL ownership is different than other leagues where there has to be a majority owner who owns at least 30% of the team. The Carolina Panthers are probably going to sell for $2.4 billion or more. So that means that, about $800 million is going to need to be cashed out for that. So do those people have it? Who knows? I mean, their net worths are above that, but who knows how much of it is liquid or in cash. But the question about the NBA, the NFL dying though, like it is kind of interesting because while everything's up, the ratings are down 20%. It's still very highly rated, and the league is still trying to expand. The league is trying to expand. The league is trying to expand to London and to Europe. So the NFL and the NBA are spending a lot of time in London right now. And the question is why? Question is why, particularly in the NFL, because like you have two different products with the NFL and the NBA. The NFL and the NBA, two different products. The NBA is selling stars. The NBA is selling stars. We'll get into that in a second. And the NFL is selling a game. Like when you're trying to sell an entire game to a country, like you have barriers to entry. Like right now, 60% of the British people who've seen the NFL say it's boring. They already have soccer ingrained into their culture. 2 forms of rugby, and they got cricket. And then they got the little thing called Wimbledon. Like they got a little side of tennis and golf as well. So to ingrain another game into their community, into their culture is going to be extremely difficult. Huge barrier to entry. I mean, look at what soccer has been facing trying to get into the United States. The United States didn't even make the damn World Cup. People were outraged, but it's not really that big of a deal. It's not. I mean, it'd be like, yeah, okay, it was something to talk about. It'll be something to talk about when the World Cup comes around again. But it's really not that big of a deal. And the NFL is suffering from that because you have to educate people on a complicated game. It is completely different than rugby. It's different than soccer. The game continuously stops and starts. So people aren't used to that. So to re-educate them to that is a waste of time. Maybe you might sell some extra jerseys, but it doesn't look like a fruitful investment of time and energy. And then travel on the players. But the game, they already announced the games that are coming up for the 2018 season. They're going to have the Seattle versus the Raiders. So you got 2 non-playoff teams there, even though the Seattle went 9-7. The Eagles versus the Jags. I like that. And why waste a game, an early morning game, that could be a tremendously good game in London? Wow. That's a fail by the NFL. A fail. So you're going to waste Nick Foles versus the Carson Wentz versus the Jaguars defense at 6 o'clock in the morning. Excuse you? You're going to waste that game early in the morning? Oh, yeah, no, that's a fail by the NFL. And the last game, the London game, is going to be Titans at Chargers. Okay, but you're throwing away games. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And the NBA is in London today. The Celtics and the 76ers are playing in London today. NBA spending a lot of time in London. It makes sense. It makes sense for the NBA. You don't have to relearn a game. The NBA game is a lot more simple. You throw the ball in the hoop, you score points. Simple. Pretty simple. Somebody asked, do the Raiders have the Chiefs on their schedule? Duh, they have them on there twice a year. The NBA is a smart move. Smart move because 25% or a quarter of the NBA players are international. You got Kyrie Irving, who's a dual citizen with Australia. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak from Greece. You got Porzingis, who's from Latvia. Al Horford from the Dominican Republic. Joel Embiid from Cameroon. The NBA is doing a smart move, and they have something to actually sell. The shoe companies have shoes to sell. They have an entire identity surrounding these players to sell. The NFL does not have that because it likes its players nameless and faceless. That's where the NFL is messing up with this whole change when it comes to, well, with the NFL spending so much time in London and the NFL, really not caring about its players being individuals and marketing themselves outside of the game. Big problem. That's one of the troubles that the NFL is having the NFL is having at this point in time. But the NBA, this is a win. This is a win. And most importantly, you're actually going to be able to watch the Celtics and the 76ers at a respectable hour. And it's not going to be streaming. Like, you're actually going to get a chance to watch it on television. That's what people want to do. Doesn't make sense. But there are a couple NBA coaches acting like weenies right now. They're acting super, super soft. And they're acting soft about LaVar Ball. They're acting soft about LaVar Ball. Hold up, you millionaire coaches that get ripped by the media are mad that the media is covering LaVar Ball? Dude, grow a pair. Like, grow a pair, bro. Like, that's like, you got Stan Van Gundy talking about he's gonna boycott interviews with ESPN until they stop covering LaVar Ball so much. Dude, grow up. Grow up. Put your big boy draws on. Put your big boy draws on, because right now you're acting like Also, today, the movie Black Panther's coming out. Are you guys excited about seeing the Black Panther movie? Just curious. Because it is very clear that you are very excited about seeing the movie. Because the ticket sales have been absolutely outrageous. And the ironic part about that is since we were talking about all this international stuff, is that one of the things with movies, with people of color, or, whether it's black movies, white movies, whatever it is, the studios have felt that black movies did not travel. That black movies did not do very well when it came to international play. However, they didn't put money behind them the same way that they did other movies. Excited about this. Excited about it. And to go even further with the with the Black Panther movie. So it comes out. And if you guys don't know, Black Panther is the first superhero of African descent in American comics. He debuted before the Falcon in '69, before Luke Cage in '72, before DC Comics John Stewart, who's the Green Lantern, in '71. I mean, think about that. First one. And now you have all these people excited about the movie. And I'll tell you this. Why is this important? I know we get a lot into black and white issues and all that, and people of color issues, all this. But this movie is important, and it's important for Black Panther to do well. Because as a little black kid, it is important for you to see yourself represented not only on screen, but in places of power like movies, television, the White House, Congress, CEOs, doctors, lawyers, all of these things. Because there had been a ceiling on certain things. And the question somebody asked, do you need to watch all of the other Marvel movies before you watch Black Panther? The answer is no. You didn't need to watch a Marvel movie before you watched before you watched Iron Man, before you watched the Avengers, you didn't need to watch it. Same thing with Black Panther. It's a standalone movie. And Fandango said that this is the highest pre-sale of tickets that they've ever had. And I couldn't be more excited. And it's even, the previous record was held by Captain America Civil War in 2016. So go see the movie. Because the thing is, little white kids, like, they don't ever have to, like, the cool part about it, which is great. Like, this is not a negative thing. It is just that little white kids, they grow up and they know they can be whatever it is that they want to be. Like there's no limitation. Like none. They just know, okay, I grow up, I can be anything. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility because it's part of the culture. Like it's part of the way you grow up. You just know that everything is for your having. Everything is for your taking. So, and these little kids of color, they need to see that. But then I remember I was talking about this not too long ago and somebody said, well, how about the NBA? There's little white kids that don't believe that they can be in the NBA because they don't really see it too much. I'm talking about white American kids because there's people who with lighter complected skin color. Well, what about them? I guess they need a superhero too. So you better grow one. Better grow one to be great, and you can have one too. But history, when you look at pictures, when you look at everything, they are represented. They are represented in every aspect of life. So you don't have to have that. So when people say, oh, why are black people always talking about race? White people just don't talk about race like that. You're right. You guys probably don't. A lot of them don't. Because you don't have to. You don't have to talk about race when it's never an issue for you. When you're always represented because you don't even notice it. You literally don't even notice it. If I go to a movie, right? There have been times that I go to a movie and I've seen I've gone to a movie and I've noticed like, damn, like there were no black people, there were no black people, no Mexican people, no Indian people, no nothing in this movie. This movie was awfully white. I mean, but white people go to a movie and they may not even notice it just because, everybody, it's just a movie. But it's easy to look at it like that. But when you step back and you say, wow, I can see how somebody could notice that. That's what it is. When you're not represented, you notice that. Because it's not even representative of our culture. Like if you live in a major when you live in a major metropolis, I mean, even in any city, whether you're in the top 50 cities in the United States, try going to work without seeing somebody of color. Try having to deal with somebody, whether it's customer service, whether you go to a store to go buy something. Try not dealing with people of color. It's impossible. So how in the hell can you make a movie without people of color? How can you do it? That's why I'm telling you this. I've said it before. I refuse. I do not go see movies that have nobody of color in it. I do not. I refuse. I am boycotting movies that do not at least have like some character of color in it. Not happening. It's just not. I refuse. And I'm a person who loves movies. But I'm not doing it anymore. I am out on it. Because there's absolutely no reason, no logical reason that you can give me that there should not be 1, 2, 5 people of color throughout interacting through a movie. It's just abnormal. It's just abnormal. Somebody asked me what is my favorite movie. My favorite movie is, I love Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 is probably my favorite movie, hands down. Was I a big fan of Rogue One? It seemed like they made an effort to include minority actors. I liked Rogue One. I know I may get shot down for this, but I'm not as big on Star Wars as some other people are. I like Star Wars, but I don't love it. I'm going to go see a Star Wars movie, but I'm not going to die if I don't see it the first week out. That's just me. But I do like the fact that you have. I'll tell you something that I saw recently to give you a great example. I recently saw Hamilton, and it's about Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton is clearly not black in real life. However, his character was black in the play, and I didn't even see it because I'm sitting there like, wow, this is enjoyable. Like, when you have somebody playing a character, like we got so much caught up on like stereotypes and like them looking like the actual person when other people were so excluded from life. That's why I go back to, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. The last thing we got up today is, the last thing we have up today is an interesting story from Georgetown. So Georgetown, and I'll leave you guys with this because everybody's talking about social media. Everybody's talking about, everybody's too glued to their phones. They are too everything, right? So Georgetown basketball, they're having an actual reality night where you can go to a Georgetown game, get a paper ticket, no cell phones. They're going to give you Polaroid pictures, and there is an entire section in the stadium for that. I want to give Georgetown props for that. That's big up. That sounds like a lot of fun. You guys, thank you guys for joining me today. Unafraid Show, right or wrong. Please make sure you swipe up, share the feed, like the feed, and we will catch you guys tomorrow.